Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewport. The Third Fleet was on routine patrol near Jupiter when the alarm started screaming. His communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Miller, turned pale as she read her screens. "Admiral, we have massive hyperspace signatures appearing at the edge of the solar system," she reported. "I count over 200 ships, sir." Unknown design. Morrison felt his stomach drop. 200 ships was more than the entire human navy combined. He had only 18 vessels under his command, and they were mostly cruisers and destroyers designed for patrol duty. "Not major combat. Put it on the main screen," he ordered. The view screen flickered and showed space near Pluto. What Morrison saw made his blood run cold. Enormous alien ships were emerging from hyperspace, their hulls dark and angular like massive predators. They were arranged in perfect battle formation, clearly military vessels designed for one purpose, war. "Incoming transmission from the lead ship," Miller announced. "Put it through." The screen changed to show a terrifying alien face. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, with scales that shifted from black to deep red. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. "I am War Prime Zakthol of the Kithara Dominion. Your species has expanded beyond acceptable limits. You will surrender your homeworld immediately, or face complete extinction. You have 1 of your hours to decide." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Morrison quickly opened a channel to Earth. "Get me President Grant immediately." Within minutes, the face of President Lisa Grant appeared on a secure channel. Behind her, Morrison could see the crisis room of the Global Defense Command filled with panicked officials. "Admiral, what's our situation?" Grant asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Madam President, we're facing an alien fleet of over 200 warships. They're demanding our surrender. My fleet can't possibly stop them, but I'll do everything I can to buy you time." Grant's jaw tightened. "Admiral Morrison, the people of Earth do not surrender to bullies, no matter how big their guns are. Do your duty." Morrison nodded. He had expected nothing less from the President. "Understood, ma'am." Morrison out, he turned to his crew. "All ships, battle stations. We're going to show these aliens what human courage looks like." The Third Fleet moved to intercept the alien armada. Morrison knew it was hopeless, but someone had to make a stand. As they approached the enemy formation, the alien ships opened fire. The first salvo lit up space like a deadly fireworks show. Beams of crimson energy lanced through the darkness, striking the human ships with devastating force. The destroyer Phoenix exploded instantly, its reactor core breaching in a brilliant flash. "Evasive maneuvers," Morrison shouted. "Return fire!" The human ships scattered, using their smaller size and better maneuverability to avoid the worst of the alien weapons. They fired back with everything they had: missiles, plasma cannons, and railgun slugs. Some shots found their marks, but the alien ships seemed to absorb the damage without serious effect. Captain Danny Rodriguez, commanding the cruiser, Liberty, managed to score a direct hit on one of the smaller alien vessels. The enemy ship's shields flared but held firm. Rodriguez's celebration was cut short when 3 alien ships focused their fire on the Liberty, reducing it to scrap metal in seconds. One by one, the human ships fell. Morrison watched helplessly as brave men and women died trying to protect their home. The cruiser Defiance lasted longer than most, its captain, Amy Chen, leading a desperate charge against the alien flagship before being overwhelmed. After 2 hours of hopeless battle, only Morrison's flagship remained. His ship was badly damaged, life support failing, and half his crew was dead or wounded. "Admiral," his tactical officer, Commander Bob Taylor, reported grimly, "the alien fleet is moving toward Earth. They're not even bothering to finish us off." Morrison understood. To the aliens, his remaining ship was no longer a threat. They had made their point and were moving on to their real target. On Earth, the alien ships took positions around the planet. President Grant had ordered the evacuation of all major cities, and billions of people were streaming into the underground shelter networks built during the resource wars of the previous century. The aliens began their attack with weapons unlike anything humans had seen. Instead of simply destroying cities, they deployed massive atmospheric processors that started changing Earth's air itself. The oxygen levels began dropping slowly but steadily. Dr. Kevin Blake, the chief science officer at the Global Defense Command, watched the readings with growing horror. "They're not trying to blow up the planet," he told President Grant. "They're making it unlivable for us. At this rate, we have maybe 6 months of breathable air left." Grant stared at the reports showing the atmospheric changes spreading across the globe. "How long before our underground shelters become our tombs?" "Maybe a year if we're lucky," Blake replied. The air recycling systems weren't designed for this kind of contamination. Meanwhile, Blake was desperately trying to contact the human colonies scattered across 17 star systems. Every transmission was jammed by alien technology. Earth was truly alone. In orbit, Morrison's crippled flagship drifted powerless. He had managed to get a few escape pods away before the final battle, but most of his crew was gone. Through the cracked viewport, he could see the alien ships surrounding Earth like vultures. "Sir," whispered Ensign Kate Phillips, one of the few surviving crew members. "What do we do now?" Morrison looked at the young officer barely out of the academy and saw the fear in her eyes. He also saw something else, determination. It was the same look he had seen in President Grant's eyes, the same spirit that had driven humanity to the stars. "We survive, Ensign. We find a way to warn the colonies, and we make sure these aliens learn that attacking Earth was the biggest mistake they ever made." As the alien atmospheric processors continued their deadly work, Morrison began planning. The battle for Earth was lost, but the war was far from over. Somewhere out among the stars, millions of humans lived on colony worlds. They would need to know what happened here. The aliens had won the first round, but they had also revealed their greatest weakness. They had underestimated humanity's capacity for survival and revenge. General Amy Foster crouched in the command bunker 300 feet beneath the Colorado mountains, studying the tactical displays that showed the grim reality above. 6 months had passed since the aliens first attacked, and Earth's surface had become a poisoned wasteland. The Kythera atmospheric processors had done their work well. The air outside was now toxic to human lungs. "Report from the Detroit sector," called out Major Tim Hughes from across the command center. "The aliens have established another processing facility near the old auto plants. They're using the factory infrastructure to build more of those atmospheric machines." Foster nodded grimly. The Kythera were methodical in their conquest. They didn't just want to kill humanity. They wanted to remake Earth entirely for their own use. Intelligence reports suggested they were planning to colonize the planet once all human life was eliminated. Above ground, alien patrols moved through the empty cities in their powered armor. The Kythera soldiers stood 9 feet tall in their mechanical suits, with energy shields that could stop any weapon in the human arsenal. Their sensors could detect human heartbeats through solid rock, making hiding almost impossible. But humans were nothing if not adaptable. In the tunnels beneath Detroit, Engineer Tony Rivers wiped grease from his hands as he examined the alien power cell he had salvaged from a damaged Kythera patrol unit. For weeks he had been working in the underground factories trying to understand how their technology worked. "Still nothing?" asked his assistant Linda Park, looking up from her own workstation. "Wait," Rivers said suddenly, his eyes widening as he studied the readings on his scanner. "Linda, look at this. The power frequency. It's resonating with something." He ran the scan again, then checked it against the geological surveys of Earth's core. The pattern was unmistakable. "The isotope they're using in their reactors," Rivers breathed. "It's the same rare element we use in our newest experimental power systems." "But they're using it wrong. Their quantum field is unstable." Park leaned over his shoulder to see the data. "What does that mean?" "It means they have a weakness they don't even know about," Rivers said, excitement building in his voice. "If we can disrupt their quantum field at the right frequency, their whole power system could overload." Meanwhile, in a communication bunker beneath the ruins of New York, Maria Santos worked frantically at her equipment. The aliens jammed all long-range communications, but she had been studying their jamming signals for months. There were patterns, brief windows when the interference weakened. "Come on," she whispered to herself, adjusting the transmission frequency. "Just 30 seconds. That's all I need." Santos had lost her husband and 2 children in the first alien bombardment. Now she lived for one purpose: getting word to the colonies about what was happening on Earth. The outer settlements needed to know about the invasion, and more importantly, they needed the technical data that Rivers had discovered. Her equipment suddenly chirped. The jamming field had a gap. Santos immediately began transmitting on the emergency colonial frequency. "Mayday, Mayday. This is Earth command to all colonial stations. Olympus has fallen. Repeat, Olympus has fallen. Remember us. She quickly uploaded the coded data package containing River's discovery about the alien power systems. The transmission lasted exactly 37 seconds before the aliens detected it and focused their jamming equipment on her location. Transmission complete, Santos said to herself with satisfaction. She looked at her screens and saw alien aircraft converging on her position. They would be here in minutes. Santos calmly destroyed her equipment and all records of the transmission, then sat back in her chair. She had done her job. Whether anyone out there received the message was out of her hands now. The bunker shook as alien weapons struck the surface above. Santos closed her eyes and thought of her family. 3,000 miles away, General Foster received word of the transmission just before the aliens bombed Santos's position flat. The sacrifice had been worth it. If the message got through to the colonies, there might still be hope. "General," called out Lieutenant Jerry Walsh from the intelligence section. "We're getting reports from our people in the European tunnels. The aliens are starting to hunt more aggressively. They're using some kind of new scanner technology." Foster studied the tactical map. Red dots showed confirmed alien positions across the globe. Blue dots marked human resistance cells. Every day there were fewer blue dots. They're getting desperate, Foster realized. 6 months of guerrilla attacks are wearing them down. They want to finish this quickly. The human resistance had been more effective than anyone expected. Using the vast tunnel networks, they could strike at alien facilities and disappear before reinforcements arrived. They couldn't win pitched battles, but they could make the occupation costly. In the Australian underground complex, Dr. Rebecca White had been analyzing captured alien technology alongside Rivers's data. She made a breakthrough when she realized that the quantum frequency weakness could be weaponized. If we can build transmitters using our experimental reactor designs, she explained, to her team via encrypted tunnel communication, we can create interference fields that will disrupt their power systems. Their shields, their weapons, even their life support. It all depends on the same quantum field. The Resistance began building the devices in hidden workshops throughout the tunnel networks. It was slow work with limited resources, but gradually, they assembled a small arsenal of quantum disruptors. The first field test came when a Kythera patrol entered the London Underground. Resistance fighters, led by Captain Mike Stevens, activated their prototype disruptor. The alien soldiers suddenly found their powered armor shutting down, their energy shields failing, their weapons going dead. For the first time since the invasion began, humans killed Kythera soldiers in direct combat. News of the victory spread through the tunnel networks like wildfire. Suddenly, the invincible aliens didn't seem so invincible anymore. War Prime Zach Thule received reports of the equipment failures with growing concern. His scientists couldn't explain what was happening. The humans weren't supposed to have technology capable of disrupting Kythera systems. "Increase the atmospheric processing," he ordered his subordinates. "I want this planet uninhabitable for human life within 3 months. And triple the patrols. These underground vermin will be exterminated." But in the depths of Earth's tunnel networks, humanity was far from finished. They had learned their enemy's weakness, and more importantly, they had gotten word to the colonies. Now they just had to survive long enough for help to arrive. General Foster looked at the latest casualty reports and allowed herself a small smile. The numbers were still terrible, but they were decreasing. The quantum disruptors were evening the odds. "Hold on," she whispered, thinking of the humans scattered across the galaxy. "Just hold on a little longer." Captain Alex Johnson was reviewing mining reports aboard the exploration vessel Pioneer when the emergency signal came through. The ship was at the edge of the Centauri system, mapping asteroid fields for future colonization. Lieutenant Chris Walker, his communications officer, looked up from his console with confusion. "Captain, I'm receiving a priority transmission on the old emergency frequency. It's coded as Olympus Protocol." Johnson felt his blood turn cold. Olympus Protocol meant only one thing: Earth was under attack and possibly lost. He had hoped never to hear those words. "Put it through," he ordered, his voice tight. Maria Santos's desperate transmission filled the bridge. "Mayday, mayday. This is Earth command to all colonial stations. Olympus has fallen. Repeat, Olympus has fallen. Remember us." The bridge fell silent as the message ended. Johnson stared at the data package that came with the transmission. technical specifications, enemy capabilities, and most importantly, a potential weakness in alien technology. "Sir," Walker whispered, "what are your orders?" Johnson's mind raced. As an exploration captain, he had no authority to make military decisions for the colonies. But the message was clear. Earth needed help, and there might not be time for proper channels. "Send a copy of this transmission to every colonial government immediately," Johnson ordered. Then set course for New Sydney. Maximum burn. Across the 17 human star systems, the message spread like wildfire. On New Sydney, Admiral Susan Clark was hosting a peaceful trade conference when the transmission arrived. The room erupted in shocked voices as delegates realized what they were hearing. "Ladies and gentlemen," Clark announced, her voice cutting through the chaos, "this conference is over. We have work to do." Clark had been a military officer for 30 years, fighting in the colonial expansion wars. She knew exactly what needed to happen, and she knew humanity had been preparing for this moment, without even realizing it. The colonies weren't just peaceful settlements. They were an insurance policy against exactly this kind of disaster. On the forge worlds of Kepler, General Carl Davis received the alert while inspecting the massive shipyards that had been built to support colonial expansion. The industrial capacity that had seemed like peaceful development suddenly revealed its true purpose. "Activate Protocol 7, Davis ordered his staff. "Every civilian shipyard is now military. Every cargo hauler gets weapon mounts. Every mining laser becomes a ship gun." Protocol 7 was a contingency plan that few colonists knew existed. It turned the entire colonial infrastructure into a war machine almost overnight. Passenger ships became troop transports. Cargo vessels became supply ships. Even luxury liners were fitted with missile launchers. The colonies had been built with hard-learned lessons from Earth's history. Never again would humanity put all its eggs in one basket. Every settlement was designed to be self-sufficient. Every world capable of building its own defenses. Dr. Laura Kim, working in her laboratory on the research station orbiting Tau Ceti, studied the technical data from Earth with growing excitement. The quantum frequency information from Tony Rivers was exactly what she needed to complete her own research. "The fools," she muttered to herself as she ran calculations. "They're using quantum resonance for everything, but they don't understand the harmonic interactions with rare isotopes." Kim had been working on quantum field manipulation for years, trying to develop better power systems for deep space exploration. Now she realized her research could be weaponized. Within days, Kim had designed a quantum disruptor that could overload any system using the alien frequency pattern. Better yet, it could be built using standard colonial manufacturing equipment. Admiral Clark moved quickly to coordinate the colonial response. She established her headquarters on the battleship Wellington, one of the few purpose-built warships the colonies possessed. Around her, the greatest mobilization in human history was taking place. From the mining colonies of Vega came ships loaded with raw materials. The agricultural worlds contributed converted freighters carrying supplies. Even the small research outposts sent their exploration vessels, hastily fitted with whatever weapons could be found. Captain Johnson's Pioneer was one of the first ships to reach New Sydney. He found the system transformed. Where once there had been peaceful trade stations, now there were military staging areas. Civilian ships by the hundreds were being converted to warships. "Captain Johnson," Admiral Clark greeted him as he came aboard the Wellington. "Your message may have saved our species. What's our timeline?" Johnson consulted the navigation data. "Earth has been under attack for 6 months. Based on the atmospheric processing described in the data, they may have less than 6 months of breathable air left." Clark nodded grimly. "Then we have a deadline. How many ships can we assemble?" The answer amazed even the admiral. The colonies had been far more militarized than anyone realized. What looked like peaceful expansion had actually been careful preparation. Every world had defensive fleets, every system had patrol vessels, and every settlement had the industrial capacity to build more. Commander Rita Hayes arrived from the frontier worlds with a convoy of converted mining ships. Their cargo holds had been filled with the rare isotopes needed for quantum disruptors, and their mining lasers had been modified for ship-to-ship combat. "Admiral," Hayes reported, "the frontier colonies are sending everything they have. Even the survey ships are joining up." General Davis finished his inspection of the Kepler shipyards and sent his report to Clark. We can outfit 800 ships with quantum disruptors within 3 weeks. It's not elegant, but it should work. Dr. Kim's weapon designs were distributed throughout the colonial fleets. Engineers worked around the clock to install the quantum disruptors on every ship that could carry them. The weapons were crude by normal standards, but they didn't need to be elegant. They just needed to disrupt alien power systems. As the massive fleet assembled at New Sydney, Admiral Clark realized something that would have terrified the Kithra if they had known. Humanity's rapid expansion hadn't been about finding new homes, it had been about survival. Every colony was a backup plan, every settlement a potential military base. The aliens had attacked what they thought was humanity's only important world. They had no idea that Earth's children had grown strong among the stars. Captain Steve Martin, commanding a converted passenger liner now bristling with missile launchers, joined the formation around the Wellington. His ship had been carrying tourists just weeks ago. Now it was part of the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. All ships, Admiral Clark broadcast to the assembled fleet, we are about to attempt something that has never been done before. We're going to save our homeworld from alien invaders. Some of us may not return, but we go knowing that we fight for every human being who has ever lived. The colonial fleet began its journey toward Earth. 800 ships of every size and description, united by one purpose, to show the Kithra that attacking Earth had been a fatal mistake. In the depths of space, the largest rescue mission in galactic history was underway. War Prime Zakthul stood in the command center of his flagship, studying the tactical displays showing Earth's dying atmosphere. In 6 months, his forces had transformed the planet from a thriving world to a slowly suffocating tomb. Soon, the last human resistance would be eliminated and the Kithra could begin their colonization. War Prime, his intelligence officer, Sub-Commander Vextal, approached hesitantly. Our deep space sensors are detecting hyperspace signatures approaching the system. Zakthul barely looked up. Probably more human refugees trying to return home. Deploy the outer patrol to intercept them. Sir, Vextal continued, his voice uncertain. The signatures number in the hundreds. Now Zakthul paid attention. He turned to the sensor displays and felt his confidence waver. The readings showed massive hyperspace distortions approaching from multiple directions. This wasn't a few refugee ships, this was a fleet. Impossible, Zakthul growled. Our intelligence reports indicated the humans have no significant military forces outside this system. But the sensors didn't lie. As the hyperspace signatures resolved into real space around Earth, Zakthul saw something that shook him to his core. 800 ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, surrounding his fleet from all directions. Admiral Susan Clark stood on the bridge of the Wellington, watching the Earth she remembered from her childhood. The blue and green world was now shrouded in poisonous clouds. Its once bright atmosphere turned sickly yellow by the alien processors. Admiral, her tactical officer, Commander Paul Green, reported grimly, I count 196 alien vessels in various orbital positions. They've got processing stations on every continent. Clark studied the tactical display. The Kithra had arranged their fleet to protect the atmospheric processors rather than defend against attack. They clearly hadn't expected any significant resistance. That was their first mistake, Clark said quietly. All ships, this is Admiral Clark. Execute liberation protocol. Show them what happens when you attack our home. The colonial fleet spread out into attack formation. What the Kithra saw defied their understanding of human capabilities. Massive cargo ships had been converted into missile platforms. Passenger liners bristled with energy weapons. Even small exploration vessels carried quantum disruptors powerful enough to cripple alien warships. Captain Alex Johnson, commanding the Pioneer, led a squadron of converted survey ships toward the alien fleet's left flank. His ship's mining lasers had been upgraded with quantum disruptor technology, turning them into devastating anti-ship weapons. Target their larger vessels first, Johnson ordered his squadron. We need to take out their heavy guns before they can coordinate a response. The first salvo from the human fleet lit up space like a deadly fireworks display. Missiles, energy beams, and quantum disruptors struck the alien ships simultaneously. For the first time since the invasion began, Kithra shields failed catastrophically. The alien ship Destroyer of Worlds, a massive dreadnought that had led the initial assault on Earth, found its quantum-powered shields flickering and dying as human disruptor beams hit home. Without their energy barriers, the ship's hull was vulnerable to conventional weapons. Commander Rita Hayes, leading her squadron of converted mining ships, demonstrated humanity's talent for improvisation. Her vessels approached one of the alien processing stations at high speed, then used their industrial mining charges as improvised torpedoes. "Remember what they did to our world," Hayes broadcast to her squadron as they closed with the enemy. "Make them pay for every breath of poisoned air." The mining charges, designed to crack asteroids, proved devastatingly effective against alien hull materials. The processing station exploded in a brilliant flash, its destruction visible from Earth's surface. War Prime Zakthul watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. The humans fought with a ferocity and creativity that his military doctrine couldn't counter. They used cargo containers as kinetic weapons, turned passenger ships into kamikaze vessels, and employed industrial equipment as ship killers. "How is this possible?" Zakthul demanded of his staff. "Where did they get so many ships? Our intelligence said they were a single-world species." His science officer, trying to make sense of the quantum disruptor attacks, looked up from his instruments with fear in his eyes. "War Prime, these humans understand our power systems better than we do. They're using our own technology against us." On Earth's surface, General Amy Foster watched from her underground command post as the space battle raged overhead. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to hope. "All resistance cells," she broadcast through the tunnel networks. "The cavalry has arrived. Prepare for surface operations. It's time to take our world back." The tide of battle turned decisively when Captain Johnson's squadron successfully destroyed the main atmospheric processing center above North America. The massive alien structure, which had been poisoning Earth's air for 6 months, broke apart in spectacular fashion. "One down, 5 to go," Johnson reported to Admiral Clark. "Their atmospheric weapons are vulnerable to focused quantum disruptor fire." Captain Steve Martin, commanding his converted passenger liner, demonstrated the desperate courage that characterized the colonial fleet. When his ship's weapons failed, he used the liner's massive bulk as a battering ram, driving straight through an alien cruiser and splitting it in half. "This is for Earth," Martin shouted as his ship, badly damaged but still fighting, emerged from the wreckage of the enemy vessel. The space battle raged for 3 days. The Kythera, despite their technological advantages, found themselves overwhelmed by human numbers, determination, and tactical flexibility. Ships that should have been helpless civilian vessels proved to be deadly opponents when crewed by people fighting for their homeworld. Dr. Laura Kim's quantum disruptors proved to be the key to victory. The alien ships, dependent on their quantum-powered systems, became helpless when their power sources were disrupted. Human ships, using simpler but more robust technology, could continue fighting even when damaged. On the 3rd day, War Prime Zakthul made the decision that would haunt the Kythera for generations. With most of his fleet destroyed and the atmospheric processors under constant attack, he ordered the surviving ships to retreat. "This is not over," he broadcast defiantly as his remaining vessels prepared to jump to hyperspace. "The Dominion will return with greater force." Admiral Clark responded personally to the alien commander. "Let them come. We'll be ready." As the last Kythera ships disappeared into hyperspace, the colonial fleet began the work of liberation. Rescue ships headed for Earth's surface to evacuate survivors from the underground shelters. Engineering vessels started work on atmospheric purification systems to clean the poisoned air. Captain Johnson, surveying the debris field that had once been an alien invasion fleet, felt a grim satisfaction. The colonies had proven themselves capable of defending their home. But more importantly, they had sent a message that would echo throughout the galaxy. Admiral Clark stood on her bridge, looking down at the scarred but unconquered Earth. The planet would need years to fully recover, but it would recover. And when it did, it would be stronger than ever. "All ships," she announced to the fleet, "prepare for the next phase of operations. We're not done with the Kythera yet." President Lisa Grant emerged from the underground bunkers for the first time in 8 months, breathing the slowly clearing air of a free Earth. The colonial fleet had worked tirelessly to repair the atmospheric damage, and while the sky still held a faint yellow tinge, it was breathable again. Around her, billions of humans were returning to the surface, blinking in the sunlight they thought they might never see again. Cities lay in ruins, but they could be rebuilt. What mattered was that Earth was human once more. Madam President, Admiral Jake Morrison approached, looking older but determined. He had been rescued from his crippled flagship and spent the occupation hiding in the tunnel networks. Admiral Clark is requesting permission for the next phase of operations. Grant turned to look at the man who had made the first stand against the aliens. What does she have in mind, Admiral? She wants to take the fight to them, Morrison replied. Show the galaxy that attacking Earth has consequences. Grant considered the proposal carefully. The easy path would be to celebrate victory and focus on rebuilding. But the Kythera commander had promised to return with greater force. More importantly, there were other species out there watching to see how humanity would respond to aggression. Schedule a meeting with the colonial leadership, Grant decided. It's time to make some difficult decisions. 3 days later, representatives from all 17 colonial governments gathered in the restored Global Defense Command Center. Admiral Clark presented her plan to the assembled leaders via holographic link. The Kythera attacked us because they saw us as weak, Clark explained, her image flickering slightly as the long-range communication struggled with interference. If we simply rebuild and wait, other species will see us the same way. We need to send a clear message. Governor Beth Cooper of New Sydney spoke first. Admiral, are you suggesting we invade their homeworld? That would make us no better than them. Not invasion, Clark replied. Education. Dr. Laura Kim, now serving as the fleet's chief science officer, outlined the technical aspects of the plan. Using quantum disruptor technology, we can create a defensive field around their homeworld that will disable any aggressive military technology while leaving civilian infrastructure intact. Colonel Frank Davis from the Kepler Colonies added his perspective. Our intelligence suggests the Kythera Dominion controls 43 star systems through fear and military might. If we demonstrate that their power can be neutralized, it might inspire their subject species to seek independence. President Grant listened to the debate for several hours before making her decision. We proceed with Admiral Clark's plan, but with strict limitations. We are not conquerors. We are teachers. The message fleet departed Earth 2 weeks later. 300 ships, including many vessels that had fought in the liberation battle, set course for the Kythera home system. Admiral Morrison commanded the expedition from his new flagship, the rebuilt Earth's Pride. The journey to Kythera Prime took 6 weeks through hyperspace. When the human fleet emerged in the alien home system, they found a heavily defended world with orbital fortresses and patrol fleets numbering in the hundreds. War Prime Zakthul, who had survived the Earth battle, commanded the home defense from his new flagship. When he saw the human fleet appear, he felt a mixture of fear and rage. Impossible, he growled to his staff. How did they track us here? Our hyperspace routes are classified at the highest levels. His intelligence officer, studying the human ships, made a disturbing discovery. War Prime, many of these vessels show battle damage consistent with our weapons. These are the same ships that defeated us at Earth. Zakthul realized the implications immediately. The humans hadn't just defended their homeworld, they had followed the survivors home. Admiral Morrison opened communications on all frequencies, ensuring that every species in the star system would receive his message. This is Admiral Morrison of the Terran Federation. The Kythera Dominion attacked our homeworld without provocation, attempting genocide against 12 billion civilians. We are here to demonstrate that such actions have consequences. The human fleet moved into position around Kythera Prime, but instead of attacking, they began deploying quantum disruptor satellites. The devices formed a complex network around the planet, creating an interference field that would disable quantum-powered weapons while allowing normal technology to function. Dr. Kim monitored the deployment from her command ship. The field is stable, Admiral. Any aggressive military technology on the planet or in orbit will be completely disabled. Civilian power systems and basic technology will be unaffected. To demonstrate the system's effectiveness, Morrison targeted one of the orbital defense platforms. The massive fortress, bristling with quantum-powered weapons, suddenly went dark as its power systems failed. The station remained intact, but it was completely harmless. Throughout the Kythera home system, military vessels found their weapons and shields failing. The mighty war fleet that had terrorized dozens of species was reduced to helpless metal hulks floating in space. Morrison continued his broadcast, knowing that the message would spread throughout the galaxy. The Terran Federation does not seek empire or conquest. We believe all species have the right to live in peace on their homeworlds. However, we will defend ourselves and others against those who choose the path of aggression. On Kithra Prime, the planet's population watched in amazement as their military's most powerful weapon simply stopped working. For the first time in their history, the Kythera people saw their warriors rendered powerless by an outside force. Captain Alex Johnson, commanding a squadron of monitoring vessels, reported on civilian reaction from the surface. Admiral, we're intercepting communications from the planet. Many of the subject species are beginning to question Kythera authority. Indeed, across the Dominion's territory, species that had been conquered and enslaved for generations were learning that their oppressors could be defeated. Resistance movements that had been crushed for centuries began to stir again. War Prime Zach Thule, trapped aboard his powerless flagship, sent a desperate message to Morrison. "What do you want, human? Name your terms for conquest." Morrison's reply was broadcast system-wide. "We want nothing from you except your understanding. The field around your world will remain for 1 year. During that time, consider what kind of species you want to be. Will you continue to be conquerors, or will you learn to be neighbors?" Captain Rita Hayes commanded the squadron that would monitor the Kythera system. Her ships, many of them converted mining vessels, would ensure that the quantum field remained stable and that no military vessels left the system. 1 year, Hayes told her crew as they settled into their patrol pattern. 1 year for them to learn what we learned during our occupation, that there are consequences for choosing violence over peace. The human fleet prepared to depart, leaving behind only the monitoring squadron and the quantum disruptor network. Before leaving, Admiral Morrison sent one final message. "To all species receiving this transmission, we offer our friendship to those who seek peace and our protection, to those who are threatened by aggression. The galaxy is large enough for all of us, but only if we choose cooperation over conquest." As the fleet departed for Earth, they left behind a galaxy forever changed. The Kythera Dominion, once the most feared military force in the sector, was reduced to a single helpless star system. More importantly, dozens of previously enslaved species began asserting their independence. The news of Earth's victory spread faster than hyperspace travel. Within months, the Earth Doctrine became legendary throughout the galaxy. Humanity would defend the innocent, but would not become conquerors themselves. On Earth, President Grant received reports of the mission's success while overseeing the planet's reconstruction. Cities were being rebuilt, the atmosphere was clearing, and humanity was stronger than ever. "Any word from the Kythera system?" she asked Admiral Morrison, who had returned to serve as her military advisor. "The quantum field is holding steady," Morrison reported, "and our monitoring stations report that the Kythera are beginning to release their subject species voluntarily. Fear of our return seems to be inspiring some unexpected wisdom." Grant nodded with satisfaction. "And the other powers in the galaxy?" 3 different species have requested defensive alliances," Morrison replied. "And we've received no threats or hostile actions since the demonstration." As Grant looked out at the recovering Earth, she felt proud of what humanity had accomplished. They had faced extinction and survived. More importantly, they had won without becoming monsters themselves. The aliens had attacked Earth once, and there would never be a second time. Not because Earth was impregnable, but because the galaxy now understood that humanity would defend itself and others with overwhelming force, yet show mercy in victory. It was a lesson that would echo through the stars for generations to come.